What makes something a good idea? Exercising is a good idea. Flossing your teeth is a good idea. But most importantly, 3D printing a giant croc is a really good idea. And it's not just a good idea because this thing is absolutely incredible. It's a good idea because this project has taught me so much along the way. Not just about 3D printing, but life lessons as well. So let me show you how this came to be. My initial plan for this video was to talk about the history of Crocs, maybe exploring any sort of scandals that they've been involved in, and topping it all off with a trip at the end to the Crocs factory in Australia. One quick Google search told me that this wouldn't be possible. However, I have 3D printers, and that means that I have the opportunity to become the biggest Crocs manufacturer in all of Australia. Wait, hold on. Isn't Crocs a registered trademark? You can't 3D print Crocs. You're right. Let's just call them wearable perforated chunky clogs. Wearable perforated chunky clogs. Wearable perforated chunky clogs. Wearable perforated chunky clogs with strap. So I got the 3D printers going and started printing Crocs. This is the first Croc that I 3D printed. It's hard, it's made out of PLA, it doesn't have any sort of squish. The toe didn't quite print properly, but I actually really love it. I considered printing out just that last little piece and gluing it on, but the failures in the prints, especially in something like this, gives it a bit of personality that I actually really like. A couple issues with it, obviously. One, it's really hard. It's almost more like a steel-toed Croc. And this really got me thinking, could I actually make steel-toed Crocs? I decided against it. There are more talented, funnier people than me that have already tried this and already done it really well. So I thought, what's the exact opposite of a steel-toed Croc? Well, that's just a regular Croc. And I really wanted to 3D print a squishy Croc, something that resembles an actual Croc. So the next one I 3D printed is this. This Croc is made out of TPU for AMS. This is a Bamboo Lab product, and the Croc really is quite stiff, and the strap just doesn't bend in the way I'd like to see a Croc strap bending. So this one was more of a failure than anything, but it taught me about different materials and how TPU isn't all made the same. I thought TPU is TPU, but there's actually a scale called the Shore scale of different hardnesses that describe how hard or how stiff this material is. PLA can get really brittle. TPU doesn't do that. So when it's something that just needs to withstand a lot of forces, a lot of impacts, TPU for AMS can actually be a really good material for that. It's not a good material for Crocs, and I learned that the hard way, but it let me know that I really needed to get myself some softer TPU to make a better version of the Croc. And in comes Croc number 3. You can see just how much it squishes. The strap goes back and forth, and the strap looks so much better than the one on the yellow Croc that I showed you before. Is this something that I could actually wear? No, the inside of the Croc is just not smooth enough. There's too many little spurs, too many little bumps and ridges and pieces of material sticking out of it that makes it too uncomfortable to really wear. What has made this so uncomfortable? What has made this such a problem when it comes to actually wearing it or comes to actually being a good shoe to wear? One of the biggest things that impacts all 3D printing material, but especially TPU, is moisture. The materials themselves and the filaments absorb moisture, and as they absorb moisture, the properties get worse and worse. I wasn't really too worried about this Croc and if it was going to be something that I could actually wear. Crocs have refined their process and made something so incredible that even the knockoffs have a hard time emulating. It's not like something I could just make in my house would be nearly as good as a multi-million-dollar company. But that's not my goal. My goal is to be the biggest Croc factory. Not necessarily make the best Crocs, but I am going to make the most Crocs. And what better way to 3D print a lot of Crocs than to make them really small? So I printed one Croc, and then I printed a second Croc, and then I printed 12 more. The model was only for a right shoe, so when I mirrored it to be a left shoe, the word Crocs is actually backwards on the shoe, which I think is so charming and so cool. It gives it so much personality. With all this, I was thinking, man, I might be the top producer of Crocs in Australia. Who else has been doing this? And it was right around this time that I came across this. These are knockoff Crocs that you could buy at my local shop for just $5. And that was really disappointing to me because I'm not making real Crocs. So whatever somebody else is making are just as much Croc as mine are Crocs. So I really wasn't producing the most Crocs. This whole thing had been for nothing. Why was I trying to do this? I had to think about what my priorities were, and did I really want to just produce the most Crocs? And I realized that I was going about it all wrong. I didn't want to become the biggest factory of Crocs. I wanted to become the biggest Croc factory. That's right, the biggest Croc. Let's go through some of the features of the giant Croc. The first is that the different colors are somewhat intentional. I was regularly swapping filaments and only printing parts a couple in a row so that it looks patchworky. It looks 3D printed. Another part of it is actually the tread or the footprint on the bottom of the Croc. It's just scaled up from the smaller Crocs. It's the exact same pattern, but it's at a bigger scale. I think it looks so much cooler. The tread on the bottom was also really, really useful when assembling the Croc because it gave me straight lines that I could line up. The next feature is really the strap. And the strap took me multiple different goes to get right. At first, I tried printing it completely flat because that was the model I had. The model was a flat Croc strap, which was meant to bend. What I was gonna do is print it in PLA and then heat it up so that I could bend it, and then when it cooled down, it would be in the shape that I wanted it to be. I tried putting it in the back of my car and parking my car in the sun. Next, I tried pouring some hot water over it. The strap just didn't bend in the way I wanted. It was coming apart at the seams, it was flattening and squishing and warped, and the water just didn't heat it up evenly throughout. So instead, I decided to use the TPU that I had previously bought and hadn't used yet because I was trying to build a storyline. And I'd learned from my mistakes, it just wasn't strong enough with the plastic welding between parts, so I added dovetail joints and again plastic welded the whole thing together. And the strap actually held together quite well, but it just still didn't bend the way I want. Flexible parts and mechanical parts, they just don't scale up the same way a solid part or a completely rigid part does. I thought that these straps, both the one that I tried melting and the TPU strap, would bend like a hose, but realistically they bend a lot more like a paper towel tube, where they aren't designed to move in every direction and they're folding at the weakest point. Luckily, this project took me so long and took so long to print that over the course of it, I learned to 3D model, so I could 3D model my own Croc strap to fit on the giant Croc. It is modeled in Fusion and split into parts with dovetail joints to put together. And of course, we can flip the shoe into sport mode. With all that being said, let's take a closer look at the Croc. Is this giant Croc perfect? No. There are gaps, melted areas, places where you can see the layer lines, places where the joins of the pieces don't quite fit together. But I still think it is just absolutely incredible. The way it has come together, the color of everything. I considered doing a lot of work to the end of this, like sanding and painting and filling in the gaps. But I decided some of these imperfections are really what makes it look a lot more special to me than something that looks like it could have just come off of the shelf. Evidently, this project has taught me a lot about 3D printing and has taught me some skills that I can carry forward to everything I do in the future to make the next one even better than this. But it has taught me something even more important, in my opinion. 3D printing is a hobby that will always have failures, whether it is failed prints, parts not coming out as smooth or as strong as you wanted, or even just materials not quite behaving the way that you really wanted. And to me, this is something that isn't worth my time or my energy to really get upset about. It's something that we could really dwell on, the cost of filament that's been wasted, or the time that we put into some of these projects that just didn't work out the way we wanted. But in the end, it's something that we can learn from and grow going forward to keep making better and better projects.